So once upon a time, there was a king, and he was a very kind, generous, humble king, and his people loved him. But this king was not always wise and humble. In fact, when he was a prince, he was very prideful and full of himself. And his father, the king at that time, was grooming him to become king. And the king, was teaching this young prince to become king by having tutors who taught him physics and philosophy and math and history. And this king was teaching his son archery and all the sports, all different kinds of sports. And he would take his young son, the prince, to different parts of the kingdom to see the people. And the prince was also allowed into the room where all the colonels and the warriors would be to talk about the safety and the border of the kingdom. But the only place the prince was not allowed was to come into the court, where the people of the kingdom would come to tell their woes to the king. And this annoyed this prideful prince very much, because he would say to his father, why am I not allowed to come in here? Everybody, all the ministers get to come, and I am prince, and you will not allow me to come? And even the village people are allowed to be there, but I'm the prince, and you don't allow me. And the king very patiently every time would say to his son, you are not ready yet, my son. When you are ready, I will allow you to come into court, where you too can hear the woes of all the people. And the prince, every time there would be court, would have this complaint with his father. So one day the king said, okay, I'm going to give you a test. And if you pass the test, you can come to court the next day. And the king gives the young prince 3 dolls. And the 3 dolls are identical. And he says to the young prince, if you can figure out how these 3 dolls are different, you can come to court. And you have 3 days to figure this out. Now, remember, the prince at that time was very prideful. And he said, I don't need anybody's help, because the king had told him that the resources of the kingdom are available to you. You can use any help you want. But this was a very prideful young prince. And he's like, I don't need anybody's help. I can do this myself. I'm smart enough. And he takes the 3 dolls and he goes into his chambers. And there he holds each doll and he weighs them, but they weigh, all of them weigh the same. He shakes them, nothing different. He looks at them from all different angles, can't figure out how they're different. And now a whole day has passed, and he realizes that, oh goodness, I only have 2 more days and I don't have the time, so I better ask for help. And who better to ask for help than the wise men of the court? So the next morning he invites the wise men into his chambers and he says to them, I need to know how these dolls are different. And the wise men, being wise men, they say, sure enough, your highness. And they take the 3 dolls and they go into a room, they shut themselves in that room, and they start inspecting the dolls. And they weigh them, but they weigh the same. They shake them, but not any different. They look at them from all different angles. They're still the same. And by the end of the 2nd day, they return to the prince and very regretfully and a little afraid tell the prince, we're sorry, but these dolls are identical. They are not, there is no difference. They're all the same. The prince is very annoyed. He shoos the wise men out of his room. And he asks them to close the door. But before they can close the door, the jester cycles in on his cycle. And he looking at the prince, he says, Your Highness, you look very upset. What's going on? Why are you so upset? And he says, well, I spent 2 days trying to figure out how these dolls are different, but even the wise men can't tell me how they're different, and I couldn't tell how they're different. And the Joker says, well, maybe I can have a try. And the prince says, well, you can't do any worse than the wise men. Sure, go ahead. And the jester, the Joker, he weighs them. They're no different. He shakes them. No different. He even juggles them. No different. And afraid of the prince's anger, he slowly cycles back out of the prince's chamber. Now the prince is really upset. He's got just 1 day. What's he going to do? He really wants to attend that court. And the only way he can do is by passing this test. There, the word spreads around the palace not to go near the young prince's room because he is upset. But there's one wise man, a very quiet wise man, and he decides to approach the prince. And he goes to the prince's chamber and knocks very softly on the door. And the prince says, come in, whoever it is. And the wise man comes in and he says, Your Highness, if I may have permission, I would like to offer a suggestion. And the prince says, well, I'm at my last, I have no other option. What is it? The wise man says, well, in the village, there's a storyteller. And maybe she can tell how these dolls are different. The prince says, well, she can't do any worse than you folks did, or the Joker did. Sure, call her tomorrow morning. So first thing in the morning, the storyteller appears at the prince's door. And the prince invites her in. And he says, well, the wise man probably told you what's going on. By the end of today, I need to know how these dolls are different, because that is the only way I can pass the test and be able to attend court. And the storyteller says, I will do my best. And the prince, having experienced the wise men who wanted to inspect the dolls in chamber quietly, gets up to leave. And the storyteller says, no, you need to sit down, because a storyteller needs a listener. She makes this prince sit down. And then she looks at the dolls and says, yeah, I can tell you how they're different. And the prince says, really? She says, I know how they're different, but I need your help. He's like, I'll do anything. What do you need? And she says, bow your head. And he's like, what? You want my crown? And she's like, you know what? As a storyteller, I have enough hats to wear. I don't need your crown. Just bow your head. So the prince bows his head, and the storyteller reaches and picks one hair from the prince's head. And with that, she puts the hair through one of the doll's ear. And as she puts the hair through the doll's ear, the hair disappears. And she explains to the prince that this doll is the doll just like the wise man. What they hear goes in one ear and then stays with them secret. Then she says to the prince, bow your head again. And this time, without argument, he bows his head. And she picks one more hair from his head. And she passes it through the ear of the second doll. But this time, the hair comes out from the other ear. And the storyteller says to the prince, this doll is just like the Joker. Whatever is said to it goes in through one ear and has to come out the other. And before the storyteller can say, ask him to bow his head again, the prince bows his head, and she picks one more hair from his head. And when she passes it through the ear of the doll, the third doll, the hair comes out from the mouth of the doll. And the storyteller says, this doll is like the storyteller. Whatever goes in through one ear comes out as a story. The prince is amazed. He now knows how these dolls are different, but he also knows that his father will not be satisfied with just this answer. And he asks the storyteller, this is amazing, he says. Thank you so much. But tell me, which one of these is the best? Which one of these dolls is doing what they need, doing the best listening? And the storyteller explains. She says, when you become king, you will hear a lot of things, just like the wise men do. And those things, those stories, those messages need to be kept close to your heart, secret, and not be told to anybody. And when you become king, you will also hear rumors and things around court that are not worth repeating or retaining. So they need to be heard through one ear and removed through the other. And then you will be listening and hearing stories that you are beholden to tell again, because only through telling them again do those stories stay alive. So what these dolls teach you, Your Highness, is how to listen and what to do with the things that you hear around court. And with that, she bows and leaves. And the prince goes to his father, explains to him how the dolls are different, and is allowed into court because now he knows how to listen. And that is how the prideful prince becomes the humble, kind, loved king. Thank you.